Good afternoon, Chaos. This is Hekelatos here, your friendly Legions leader, here to do another roster review of one of our brethren in the up-and-coming guild, Rise of Chaos. Now, this particular member's name is Jazz, and we can see just from this intro screen that Jazz is a relatively newer player compared to some of the others that have been around Chaos for a while. Jazz is level 85, however, we see that from the front his R2 is only 6 star, his Darth Nihilus is 6 star, and his galactic power, including characters and ships, is under 1 million, which is not in any way, shape, or form a bad thing. It is just a strong indicator that Jazz does not necessarily have the depth of roster that a lot of other people have. So given his stage in the game, some of my advice for Jazz may not necessarily play out for most other people, but for a lot of up-and-coming players, this could be a very useful review for you to check out. So let's go ahead and see what that usefulness could be, and see what kind of advice we could offer to others in Chaos. So the very first thing we notice is that Jazz has a fair number of 7-star characters. You know, we are looking at close to 5 or 6 rows here, so somewhere in the realm of 30 to 36 7-star characters, which is a great foundation and does give you some options moving into building heroic tank and heroic pit teams. However, given your current stage, I would say the best thing for you to do to build towards heroic tank and heroic pit is not to focus on heroic tank and heroic pit teams. My advice for you would be to build yourself a base in the game so that you could be competitive in all aspects, which will give you a springboard to go into meta characters and game-changing characters as they come out. Because for right now, if you chase any of those, or chase any of the really specialized teams, you will actually be hurting yourself in the long run by not developing these core teams that you will need for a lot of things in the game. And I'll go through what each of those core groups for you should be, and that kind of advice will help a lot of people that are in the same boat as you. You know, people that have hit level 85 in the last couple of months and are wondering, alright, now that I've beaten the levels, where do I go from here? Because there will be a lot for you to do. And the two teams that I'd recommend doing the best on, or getting the most out of, is a light side team and a dark side team. Light and dark side that can compete and get at least 2 or 3 stars at the highest level of the light side missions and dark side missions. Now, given that you are able to farm Darth Nihilus, I would say that your dark side is pretty strong. And if we looked at your dark side characters, we'd see that you have 4 of them that are gear 10 gear 11, and Darth Maul there at gear 9. So we've got a pretty solid base here. But if we look at the light side, we're having a very similar place. But given the difficulty of the light side missions, I don't know that these guys could compete as much as the dark side guys. Who knows? Given the leaders that you could borrow, I could have it backwards. Not entirely sure. But continuing to build your 5 players in light side and 5 players in dark side that you could compete on the tables would be good. It's obvious here that you're using Rex a lot in your light side group, but I don't think he's the best option for you. I think your strongest light side group that you could build would actually be under a Wedge Antilles lead with R2-D2, Stormtrooper Han, Princess Leia, and Biggs Darklighter. So really, I wouldn't focus any more gear on Lando, and definitely don't focus any more gear on Rex right now. I would go just for Leia, Biggs, and Wedge, and bring them up to speed. Because that group of 5, Wedge Antilles lead, Biggs, Dark Lighter, Stormtrooper Han, R2-D2, and Princess Leia, those, if you can get a Zeta or 2 on R2-D2, you already have the number crunch. If you can get his combat analysis Zeta, Rex's cleanse is useless. Because that team is such a high crit team. If you can get R2-D2's combat analysis Zeta, they will cleanse themselves every turn they've got. So that's where I would go with your light side. With your dark side, I would stick with a Darth Vader lead since you have him Zeta'd, and I would build a team of pure Empire and Sith under him. So right now, your best bet's probably Darth Vader, Emperor Palpatine, Royal Guard, TIE Fighter Pilot, and Darth Nihilus. The reason I would say Royal Guard and TIE Fighter Pilot instead of Count Dooku and Darth Maul is because it helps a ton to have a tank, and a Royal Guard is a very, very strong tank. And though Dooku is impressive and Darth Maul is pretty awesome in his own right, TIE Fighter Pilot provides some much needed strength and single target and some ability blocking that the rest of them don't give you. So for your dark side, I'd recommend building up the TIE Fighter Pilot and Royal Guard. Now, once you get your light side and dark side settled, it's time to start building groups that can complete the mod challenges. Now, some people will say it doesn't really matter what set mods, just worry about primary stats. But at the end of the day, the bonuses from completing sets are so good that it's really not very good to not think about them and not build groups to do that. So, when I go through your groups to have for your mod challenges, you need to have all of them at 5 stars and at least gear level 8 to 3-star the mod challenges. So I'm going to go through a Jedi group, a Rebel group, and then talk about your Jawas, Resistance, First Order, and an Empire group. And the guys that I mentioned, you're going to want to have all of these at least 5 stars, gear 8, so that you can complete those missions. Okay. Now, first, looking at your Jedi. Jedi are a great starter faction, and a lot of people tend to get them up early, but not everybody does. And I see that you have a couple of those starters here really good, but nobody's geared much past gear 8. So, not a big deal, because you have enough people to be able to 3-star that challenge. And what I'd recommend is having your Luminara Unduli as your leader. Have Kanan Jarrus in there as a tank, Ahsoka Tano, Ezra Bridger, and Ima-Gun-Di as your damage dealers. Those 3 could do a significant amount of damage, especially hiding behind a Kanan Jarrus, with Luminara to heal and her dodge lead. So make sure that you, just a couple more pieces of gear on Kanan Jarrus and 1 piece of Luminara, and you can 3-star that Jedi mod challenge if you haven't already. Going from there, we're going to look at some Rebels. Now, your Rebels are probably a very strong faction right now, and I'd recommend for the mod challenge using Wedge Antilles, Biggs, Dark Lighter, Stormtrooper Han, R2-D2, and either Lando or Princess Leia. Though if you use Lando right now, if you haven't already, you could 3-star it with those guys. So you don't have to worry about getting much of them after this. Now, the next group is probably the most important group to get ready for mods, and that's Jawas. Now, your Jawa engineer is ready to go, which is good because he's the hardest one to farm. Your Dathja, 1 piece of gear and he's good, but your Chief Nebit will definitely need some more gear. Your Jawa Scavenger will definitely need some gear. and you need at least 2 more stars on regular old Jawa. Now the Jawas unlock the crit damage mods, which are huge for any damage dealer you have. So getting them ready to go and completing that mod challenge will guarantee that any damage dealer you have in any group can do a lot more damage and really take out anybody much faster. So these guys are absolutely mandatory, and I'd recommend getting these ones up first to be able to 3-star that mod challenge. After the Jawas, the Rebels, and Jedis, you're also going to need a Resistance team. Now your Resistance are obviously leaving a lot to be desired, but if you ever want great speed mods, or you have any super fast characters that you want to speed up, you're going to need those speed mods, and the way you get them is with Resistance. So, unfortunately, you do not have you do not have Finn or Poe Dameron unlocked, and you have to have both of them for the mod challenge. One, because Finn's lead is the best, and Poe Dameron is the only taunter. Because a lot of the Resistance suffers from being squishy, you really want to have Poe Dameron here to tank. So unlock and star up Poe Dameron and Finn to 5-star, and build up the Resistance pilot a little bit more. Don't worry about the Resistance Trooper, because he's best, or he's easiest farmed in the Cantina store. I'm sorry, not the Cantina store, the Guild store. And there's a lot of other guys you want to spend your guild currency on, so don't worry about the Trooper. Instead, just focus on getting Finn shards and Poe Dameron shards, getting them all up to 5-star, and gearing them out to gear level 8. And then you should be good to go with Resistance. For a potency set of mods, which are very useful, you're going to want an Empire team. Which, given that you have a 6-star R2-D2, I would bet that your top 5 Empire could 3-star that mod challenge. Just make sure that you use, either a Darth Vader or an Emperor Palpatine lead, and just go to town with your 5 7-star Empire, and you'll be good. Now, the most difficult one for you to finish, given where you're at now, will be a First Order team. You have Phasma at 5-star, but she's going to need some gear. You have First Order TIE Pilot at 2-star, so he needs at least 3 more stars to be able to 3-star the mod challenge. And he's only farmable through hard nodes, so he's going to be a difficult farm, as is the First Order Stormtrooper, also only available in hard nodes. So those two are going to take you a while. You want to get started now so that you can have them at 5-star when you're ready. The First Order Officer is a pretty easy farm. He comes straight out of the Cantina store, so he's going to be a good addition. And Kylo Ren is easily farmable in the in the Cantina table, so you're going to want to get him. Now, the last group that's going to be very necessary for you is a group that you can complete Guild War with on a very consistent basis. Now, what makes a successful Guild War team is a team that can regenerate protection. Unfortunately, without a Zeta, there's not a lot of teams that can regenerate protection. So for you, I'd recommend, for the most part, using a team that doesn't have protection at all. And that'd be a Sith team under a Darth Nihilus lead. Because your Sith are already strong, if you put your strongest Sith under a Darth Nihilus lead, they will get you very, very far into the Guild War. And then make sure that, like, your Empire or your Rebels are on deck to help you get through some of those tougher nodes, like nodes 6, 9, 11, and 12. Because you may not be able to get through it with just your Sith, but if you use the help from those other teams, you'll be able to do alright. And getting that light side, dark side, all the mod challenges, and the guild war, that will secure yourself an income and a way to improve your characters. So that's your primary goal right now, is to make sure you have a team that can consistently get through guild war, a team that can complete all the light side table battles and the dark side table battles, and then start building up your teams to complete the mod challenge. Now, the good news for you is that with those teams, you can mix and match a couple of good ones for Phase 2 of the tank and the Rancor. Phase 2 of the tank and the Rancor could work well for you under the team that would work best for you in Arena. And that Arena team looks a little bit different than what you've got now. Because your team, like I said, individually very strong and useful characters, but they don't have any synergy together. So we're going to need to rearrange that team a little bit. And my recommendation for rearranging would be, as of right now, using Darth Vader, because you have his Zeta leadership, Emperor Palpatine and Darth Nihilus from the Sith, and round out that team with 2 other Empire characters, and that would be Royal Guard and TIE Fighter Pilot. Royal Guard because you really want a taunting tank to protect your guys, and TIE Fighter Pilot again for his ability block, because his ability block is brutal in Arena. Now moving forward, again, when you have the free energy, I would gear up Darth Sidious to replace Emperor Palpatine, because Sidious does provide a bunch of damage over time effects that work phenomenally under Darth Vader. And another one I would recommend putting in that group would be the Bounty Hunter Boba Fett. Boba Fett would be a good substitute for TIE Fighter Pilot in an Arena team, also because Boba Fett's basic can add dots. So your Arena / Rancor / Phase 2 team, I'd recommend using Darth Vader lead with Emperor Palpatine, Royal Guard, TIE Fighter Pilot, and Darth Nihilus, with an eye towards subbing in Boba Fett for TIE Fighter Pilot and Darth Sidious for Emperor Palpatine when you feel they are ready to go. Now, the other reason I recommend switching those two is because your strongest Phase 3 team for the tank will be a Typatine group. Now, Typatine is made by using an Emperor Palpatine lead, a TIE Fighter Pilot, and 3 tanks. For you, those tanks would be Royal Guard, Stormtrooper Han, and your choice of whichever you want to gear, and either Clone Wars Chewbacca, Kanan Jarrus, or Old Ben Kenobi. Whichever one of those you want to get the last star or closest to and can gear, they will complete your Phase 3 Arena team. Again, that is Emperor Palpatine lead with a TIE Fighter Pilot, Stormtrooper Han, Royal Guard, and either Clone Wars Chewbacca, Kanan Jarrus, or Old Ben Kenobi. That Typatine group, once geared to get level 10 or 11, will give you a solid 300,000-400,000 damage. So definitely nothing to be ashamed about. And your Phase 4 team, I recommend pulling straight from your Rebels. Because you're not going to have Stormtrooper Han. He's going to be in your Phase 3 team. I would recommend a Wedge Antilles lead so that your guys can heal themselves. And I would use Wedge Antilles, Biggs Darklighter, Probably Lando Calrissian, Princess Leia, and R2-D2. And R2-D2, when he comes back around and you get him 7-star, his smoke screen, you want to make sure that you cloak and stealth all of your other rebels and get all the people to be attacking R2-D2. And that will be the strongest Phase 4 team you have available. Don't worry about getting your resistance ready, your clones ready for raids. Just work on those 3 teams, Darth Vader Zeta Lead, a Palpatine, and a Rebel group, and you'll be good to go for raids. So that's a lot of guys for you to work on, a lot of guys for you to gear, and if you find that you have everybody at 7 stars that you need to, and you're running out of guys to farm, focus on those Phoenix and Rogue One characters. Those Phoenix and Rogue One characters are very useful, and they provide a lot of benefit for you. So, I know I'm throwing a lot of information at you now, and it may or may not be exactly what you're looking for, but again, securing your own income will be the most important thing you can do for yourself right now. Because Guild War is your main source of credits, and it is even a solid source of crystals, depending on how well you're doing in Arena. So like I said, the crystals you get in Guild War could be useful. So make sure you have a light side team, a dark side team, a Guild War team, and teams that can 3-star mod challenges. Hopefully this information that I've given you can turn out to be useful. Hopefully it doesn't take you too long to get a couple of those teams up and running and ready to go, so that you can start doing all the contributions you'd like to do for the guild. But most of us know that you can't help anybody if you haven't helped yourself first. You gotta get yourself in a position where you are self-sufficient and not depending on other people. And that means getting mods for yourself, and it means completing Guild War for yourself, and going through Arena to give yourself those crystals. So, yeah, good luck. Like I said, you've got a lot of great stuff here, a great foundation. Now it's just a matter of getting focused and buckling down to do the 1 or 2 things that you really need to do and focus on as you go. So until later, this is Akelatos saying good night and good luck, Chaos, specifically to you, Jazz, and your guild, Rise of Chaos. Good luck.